everyone. We'll give it just a minute or two to see if anyone is going to hop on, but we won't wait much longer than that. We'll let people jump on after a minute or two. I am curious while we wait, though, of if anyone was able to do anything fun with a snowy Wednesday today. I saw patients and shoveled the driveway twice, so I don't think I'm going to win this contest. So I'm curious to see if anyone can beat that.
I was able to stay in and cook lunch, so it's a pretty good day for me.
That sounds fun. All right, Jen, I think I just admitted our other two, so we're in good shape there. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. This is not super formal, so I think if you guys have questions along the way, let me know. But the purpose, of this session is to introduce you guys to a few different concepts. One is, we call it the CEP workshop. So it's to introduce you to the concept of the clinical educator portfolio, which is a supplement to your CV, but not meant to be a duplicate. It's especially useful for those on the clinician track. And then we also use this workshop as a way to introduce those who maybe are less aware to the promotional process overall, just so it seems a little bit less cryptic for some of you. So by way of introduction, I'm Milan Anadkat. I am the chair of the Office of Faculty Development. I have a few slides to go through to introduce you to those concepts. Jen Mosher, who sent out the invitations and really made everything happen, is with me. And that's our team. Like, that's the Office of Faculty Development, is Jen and I. And so we're going to go through and we're going to talk about some of these concepts. And then we have small little breakout rooms with some senior faculty who are kind enough to help us talk to you about your CV or your CEP, for those of you that have started building it, and to kind of brainstorm ways to supplement that using this discussion as a backbone. We carved out probably more time than we need, which always makes people happy if we end short, but I definitely don't want to leave anyone hanging. And so if there are questions along the way, I'm not the best at looking at like a raising hands when there's this many people. So just unmute and interrupt and say, hey, Millen, I have a question. Like, it will not faze me, but I'd much rather you do that than us be formal. One of my favorite things about these types of workshops, though, is it does give us a chance briefly to get to know everybody. And I'm going to just throw out a guess. For a department of medicine that has about 700 plus faculty, there is a chance that even though, we're 13, 14 deep on this call, not everyone knows everyone. So if we can just do a quick round of hellos, who you are, what division you're in, that may be helpful. So Milne Nodcott, for the purpose of this call, chair of faculty development, but I am a dermatologist in my day job. And so I will kind of navigate us through the screen just so we're not kind of random. Jean, I see you next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jean Wang. I'm a gastroenterologist and happy to be here to be one of the faculty facilitators.
Thank you. Ramsey, I got you next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ramsey Hashem. I'm in pulmonary critical care. Like Jean said, I'm happy to be here. I've done this a few times, but never on Zoom. I think it's been helpful for everybody involved when I've had that experience. So I think it's good.
All right. Next, I see Natalie.
Hi, I'm Natalie Bauman. I am a new faculty member in the Division of General Medicine. So yeah, thanks for hosting this and helping me build my CEP.
Wonderful. Patricia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Patricia Cow. I'm a nephrologist, and I'm also one of the associate program directors for the residency program, and I run the WUTIP Clinician Educator pathway. And I'm really appreciative that you're offering this workshop again, because I was looking at my colleague Tim Yao's clinical educator portfolio and was like completely wowed by it. And he said, well, I learned all this from the CEP workshop, I think that you held last year. And I said, I think I need to get my CEP in there too. So definitely looking forward to learning from all of you today. So thank you for hosting.
Great. Abby?
Hi, Abby Spencer. I'm in general internal medicine. I'm the vice chair for education, and I also direct the Academy of Educators. So hopefully you are all interested in that part of it, or we'll learn more about it soon. And my very first meeting I joined when I had accepted the job but not yet started was actually Millen's CEP workshop. And I think he had maybe heard my name, but I sort of showed up in his small room because I was sent the link. And so it's fun to be here again. And I'm excited to learn and also to help facilitate in the small group. So thanks, Millen, for having me back.
Absolutely. All right. I see. Okay. It says Kay Filson on the screen.
Yeah, hi, that's me. Katie Filson. I'm one of the hospitalists. I think this is my 4th year as clinical faculty.
Wonderful. Nico?
Hi, I'm Nico Cabrera. I'm new faculty. I just got hired middle of last year. I'm in infectious disease, and I just prepared my CEP for my annual review, and it felt really skinny, and I thought this was a good thing to check out.
Well, great. Melissa?
Hi, everyone. Melissa Reimers. I'm an assistant professor in medicine and oncology. I've been here for about 2.5 years now. I'm glad I'm not the only not new faculty. I also felt like my CEP could use some work, some being overworked and looked at. So happy to be here.
Yeah, no, understood. Gayatri?
Hey, everybody. I'm a 2nd-year fellow in the Division of Infectious Diseases, also the chief fellow. I am interested in being a clinician educator for my future career. I'm also doing a master's of health professions education right now. So I thought maybe start a little early and be prepared than not. So that's why I'm here to listen and learn from all of you. Great people.
Great. Let's see. Prashant?
Hey everyone, I'm Prashant Tucker. Just joined faculty about 7 months ago in the Division of Cardiology, interventional cardiologist by trade. Shout out to Dr. Cal as part of the one of the UTIP fellows, and with a strong interest in medical education, and would like to learn more from this. So thank you for putting this together.
Good. Let's see. Stephanie Connor?
Hi, everyone. I'm actually currently faculty at UCSF and then going to be joining the hospitalist division at WashU in July. So really looking forward to that. And I have never heard of a CEP before. So I'm really excited to work on that a little bit. Thanks so much.
Well, welcome. And definitely one of the benefits of doing this virtually for you, right? So that's great. Dee Schwartz.
Yeah, Dave Schwartz, cardiovascular division as well. Been here a little while and just trying to keep things polished up as optimally as I can.
Great. And then last but not least, Jen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Jen Mosier, and I am the program coordinator for the Office of Faculty Development, and I handle a couple other programs within the department.
Great. All right. So thank you, everyone. Hopefully someone at least heard a new name out of that. I think that was worth doing. I'm now going to sort of close the window so I won't see your faces or your hand raises or your chat. So honestly, if you have a question, just unmute and ask. But let's go through the slides. So Office of Faculty Development, this is our website, our phone number. In the end, knowing me or knowing Jen, you know the entire office. And so this is what we're going to cover today. We're just going to talk about, the difference between the traditional CV as we know it and the clinical educator portfolio, what the components are, what the value is, and how to really navigate this, for the ultimate purpose of being recognized for all the things that you guys do, which most importantly will help you navigate that promotional pathway. So this is our mission statement. We're really, as our office is here just to help you as faculty, however we can, develop both academically and support you however possible in your clinical environment. I do think it's important, and this even came up earlier today with a couple of separate emails. The clinical educator portfolio, there are a few different templates. There isn't a wrong template, but the template that Department of Medicine uses has slight variations from what the school uses or other departments use. And so occasionally in the past, some have joined this call from other departments, which is great and welcome. But do understand that this presentation and the template that we have shared with you is specific for Department of Medicine. Okay, so a few of you have mentioned it. Everyone's really busy, whether you're just starting, you've been here for a while. There is 1,000 things to do. And updating your CV and CEP isn't always high enough on that list. So that being said, nevertheless, it's important. Okay, so there's different ways to really track what you're doing. The three main things that people tend to do, depending on your track, would be updating your NIH BioSketch, for which the template also changes periodically and was just changed a year ago. Your CV, which is, I think, a concept we're all familiar with, and then this Clinician Educator portfolio, which, as a summary for those of you that have not heard this concept, it is essentially a more complete way of describing what you do. It allows you to expand upon certain aspects of your CV that really just don't allow themselves to be expanded on in the traditional CV, but it also allows for addition of certain components that are not part of a traditional CV, and we'll give you some examples as we go through. But really, this composite ends up making up your professional portfolio and highlighting what it is that you do and what it is that you've done to help you get promoted. So this concept of getting promoted and getting recognized by leadership, I make a point of telling mentees who are seeking mentorship, and whether you're seeking mentorship from within your division, within the department, with your leadership, or outside of it, it is essential to be an active mentee. And so this is the discussion that comes up often. Simply showing up and saying, how can you help me? Or, you already know what I've done, I think is a misnomer. Oftentimes leadership knows that you're busy, but they don't specifically know all that you're doing. So it is essential that you keep track of your progress, but that you're also proactive in letting your leadership know what it is that you're doing. That helps you facilitate for feedback and for appraisals, and then helps you really shape your future so you can better align what it is that you're trying to do in the long term with your goals. So a quick sort of overview, but I think a necessary overview of the promotions process. There is a lot of discussion, and I think Abby is on these calls with the division chiefs monthly. Every month there's discussions from division chief leadership and the department chairs about faculty being put up for promotion. But behind the scenes, before that even happens, there really are annual meetings that Dr. Fraser has with your division chiefs about every single faculty, top to bottom, in the department, which, as you can imagine, takes some time. And the things that are reviewed specifically are the CVs and the CEPs that you have compiled and kept up to date. So it is important that you do that. The navigation of the promotional process follows the APGAR document, which is a school-wide WashU document dictating what it is to be an instructor, an assistant, an associate, or a full professor, and the various tracks by which you can do that, for which, again, school-wide, there's 3 tracks. There's the clinician track, which is where we feel the clinician educator portfolio is most useful as a supplement. There's the research track, and then there's the investigator track, which is also the track by which you can have tenure. So in terms of who decides about promotions, there are departmental review committees within the department, but ultimately it comes down to division chiefs and Dr. Fraser reviewing and then suggesting that someone be put up for promotion, at which point then it is the division chief's job to collect the data, which is your CV, your CEP, and whatever designated number of letters of support are necessary. At that point, it is put up at the division chief's meeting for other division chief leadership within the department to vote on. And that's just the first step. And then after that, it goes to ad hoc committees, which are intentionally made up of all non-Department of Medicine members. So typically 3 chairs from clinical departments, and then 2 chairs from preclinical departments, along with senior faculty, again, outside of DOM. And so they will review your CV and CEP and your letters of support and then vote on it. I've been a member of multiple ad hoc committees. It is an extremely thorough process, and it's an extremely heterogeneous group of faculty that participate. After that, it goes to the executive faculty for final review, and only for those on the investigator track going up for tenure is there an additional vote by the WashU Board of Trustees. So this is just a schematic talking about all of the different processes. And if there's anything you gather from this, it should be that there's a lot of steps, and each step, as you would imagine, takes a fair amount of time. And the thicker your CVs and the thicker your CEPs get, the more time it takes to review those things, which accounts for a lot of the time. So for those on the investigator track, things are a little bit cleaner in terms of what is asked of you and what are the requirements. Essentially, once you are started on your tenure track, you essentially have 10 years, but really you need to start showing benchmark achievements by year 7 to go through. And to go through the investigator track, you need that extra layer of approval by the Board of Trustees. And so again, here's just a schematic. To be an instructor, you need the dean's approval and nothing else. But for every other promotional step, you'll need divisional leadership approval. You'll need the ad hoc committee approval, and then the executive faculty approval, regardless of which track you're on. Okay, so some of the important nitty gritties as you're doing this is when you're compiling your documents, and we're going to go through the formats, but the basics do matter, right? There are many times that we'll review documents where punctuation or grammar or spelling is off. The format is off, making it hard to read. So I think very intentionally, we try and keep our website up to date. And when I say we, of course, thank you, Jen, keeps our website up to date for the documents that you need, both for the CV and for the CEP. So, if you're creating your own template, I would highly encourage you to look at these documents, all of which are online, and Jen will also share if anyone has questions afterwards. So you can see the templates of both the CV and the CEP so that you can align the data that you have in a format that they're used to seeing within the Department of Medicine. All right, so I'm not going to read this slide to you, but again, it is very specific on how they want you to do it. So I would just encourage you to make sure that you are following the formats. Okay. So the Clinician Educator portfolio, again, specifically helpful for those on the Clinician Educator track, which is approximately 500 of the 700 faculty that are in the Department of Medicine. So there is a large number of faculty for which this is pertinent. It's occasionally pertinent for those on other tracks, but primarily for those on the clinician track. So again, it's a supplement to the CV, allowing you to expand upon all the things that you do. And it really then just allows you to showcase the quality and the extent of experience. Sometimes a line item doesn't really do justice to all that's involved for some of the activities that you guys are involved in. So the goal here is not for it to be an identical mimic of your CV. I think I heard the term earlier from someone that their CEP was thin. Your CEP should definitely be thicker than your CV. So just like your CV, this is something that you'll want to constantly update and then periodically reflect on personally and with your leadership to see if you are going in the direction that you had planned for. Occasionally, people will include a personal mission statement saying that these are your long-term and short-term goals, that you have a strategic plan for your own personal trajectory. And again, there are templates for this on the website. For those that have been at the institution for some time, there was an older format. We've had one major update to the template, which we are almost 3 years past now. So that was updated in 2019. So we used to do this workshop sort of straddling both sides of it, but this is now exclusively a post-2019 template discussion. So again, there are detailed items on the website in terms of formatting. And so let's get into some of these things. So here are the components of the Clinician Educator portfolio. In broad sweeps, you're going to talk about your clinical contributions, your educational contributions, and what you do from community service, along with annual summaries, and then, if pertinent, other contributions that you feel are not captured anywhere else in your overall portfolio of your CV or mentioned elsewhere in your CEP. There may be instances where, you know what, I do things and I have value and I contribute, but I don't see where I can put that. Well, that's what the other section is for. Okay. One addition that we added last year, and there are suggestions on how to do that with COVID. A lot of people's lives have changed. A lot of people's duties have changed. But again, you've done stuff, and you might have done stuff that is COVID specific. And so we have added a little section in each of the subcategories where you can add what it is that you've done that's pertinent to COVID. So if we look specifically at the clinical contributions, there are different sections listed here. And again, I don't want to go over it and read these things to you, but things such as ongoing clinical activity would simply be, who are you? Do you work inpatient or outpatient? How much do you work? What type of service is there? What's involved with that? I run an inpatient service. On average, this averages this many weeks per year. On average, this is our patient load. These are the hours I'm working. These are the number of calls I'm taking. I mean, these are not things that are so literal on a CV, but these are huge chunks of your time that really highlight the value that you're providing, that you would explicitly state on your CEP. So again, here's some examples of what some may list as their clinical contributions, highlighting not just how much you work, but how many patients you care of, who else is on your team that you're leading or that you're a part of in an interdisciplinary manner. Are you the director of a clinic? Do you meet with the office manager? Are you involved with certain quality improvements for certain aspects of clinical care? So, other things that you may list within the clinical activities section include methods to improve quality and efficiency. So QI initiatives that you may have, just simple policy or procedures that you've developed. And again, are you leading this team? Are you part of a panel? Are you simply a member of the team, which is still beneficial? But again, these are options for you, instead of just saying medical director, to really highlight what is involved with those duties. How many hours, how many people, how many conversations does this take from your time? Administrative responsibilities, are not limited to the traditional titles, but there may be people that you're constantly in charge of overseeing, whether it's physician extenders or trainees or staff within the hospital or in your outpatient setting, which again takes up your time, takes up your brain power, is completely a contribution that you're providing. But you need to have somewhere in your overall portfolio that you're highlighting what it is that you do. In terms of COVID-19, there are direct clinical contributions, that you worked extra shifts, that you were pulled to help in other services. Trials and grants, specific grants that are listed item by item on your CV don't need to be duplicated here, but there are occasionally things that don't fit neatly within a CV. And so these are options by which you can include within your CEP to, again, round out what it is that you're doing. Case reports, and then feedback. Right now we have these constant feedback reports, both from those that we work with along with patients. I think saving those items of feedback that you get are useful, and it really highlights how valued your care is, again, not just by your peers, but by the very people you take care of. So this is exactly where you'd want to include those sentiments. Educational contributions, again, I think are straightforward, but again, some examples, direct teaching sessions. And so this is a common example that I'll bring up. On your CV, you may say that you direct the what used to be, the second year course, or you direct the course on dermatopathology. But what you don't say in your CV that you really should expand upon in your CEP is the number of hours that were involved in prep work, the number of students that attend your class, how long that course goes for. Are there other faculty by which you are coordinating their time? Because these are, again, all things that you're doing. So being the director of a course could mean many different things depending on how large or small that course is and how long you've been doing that. Is it only medical students that attend or other students? And so again, the CEP, you should lay it all out there so it is not leaving anything to interpretation. Let's see, curriculum development. Did you create a new course? How much time was involved? Are you simply adapting a current course that's existing? Again, COVID-19 contributions, perhaps it wasn't by way of direct patient care service, but teaching related to COVID, or honestly, compromises that you had to make because of COVID. I see that there's an interruption in your portfolio where you used to teach this course and for 2 years you stopped doing it. And I think that would be a place where you would introduce, well, this was during the time of the pandemic, so this is why that happened. It all seems very obvious now as we're living it that you would put that on your CV, but 3 years from now, you don't want it to be overlooked. So you want it to tell that story so that it explains your trajectory when looking at it, not just now, but in the future. And similarly with other aspects, like, if you have leadership positions, describing that in detail, what was involved with that, who were you supervising, what courses did you develop or programs did you develop, and who was that target audience? And again, assessments are important. So the reviews and how they benefited from you, what their reviews were, what specific comments were, should be included, including examples of video blogs or, not peer-reviewed journal, but other multimedia type outlets where you've contributed. This would be a great place to include that role that you have. And so here's just an example of a content update that may have been done where you created simulation models. Abby and I were just talking before everyone jumped on about what was that course called, Abby, where the medical students basically had fake pagers that they had to respond to?
Capstone mock pages workshop.
Yeah. Such a clever thing where these medical students, before they go on their clerkships, are responding to pages where volunteer nurses are taking part in this course so that they are prepared. Someone developed that. And so these types of things should be highlighted because it does have value for those that are taking part in it. It also requires a significant amount of coordination, but those are things that should be highlighted. Mentorship's a big part of it. So, for those in education, who have you been teaching and who have they become is important. So who have you mentored, for how long, what was that activity, and where are they now are all things that should be on your CEP. And again, as we talked about, feedback in terms of evaluation should make it to your CEP as well. Publications can be both traditional, which I think is very easy to put on the CV, but it's the non-traditional publications where sometimes we feel there isn't a natural spot to put on the traditional CV. They should be on your CEP because it still took time and editing and thought on your part to get it out there. And there are readers of that content And so there's absolutely a value that you're adding. And so highlighting that and keeping a list, you know, in the dermatology world, there's a virtual journal club where they have people sort of commenting on things that have been recently published so people can digest and interpret that. Those are the types of things you want to keep a list of what you're doing because it does highlight the time involved. And then community service, right? I don't think this is not meant to be narrow, right? There's lots of ways that you guys have serviced your community, both within the school, within the local, regional, or maybe national community. Have you contributed by way of media, DEI, other things in COVID? So highlight those. Your participation in committees, again, whether they're local or regional or national, should be highlighted. Media activities. There's podcasts, there's TVs, there's website blogs. I think there's still paper newspapers that exist. Only joking, but you know, all of those things are things that we should be highlighting what you do. All right, so I think here's a good sort of contrast, and I alluded to this earlier, of the difference between a CV and a CEP. You see on the left, it is a very accurate statement to say that you're a clerkship director for internal medicine. And that pretty much tells the story on a CV, but what you're not telling is all the things that are involved on the right and all the sort of subcategories that are involved with that, that you can expand upon on your CEP. In terms of annual summaries, you can include it as an attachment. You don't have to include everything. This could be either work production. And then the other is just that. It's anything else that you feel is important to highlight for you as a faculty in terms of what you bring to the table, how you spend your time to make yourself a proud member of our faculty. If it doesn't fit neatly somewhere on your CV and it doesn't fit neatly somewhere else on the CEP, then it should go here. I think we try very hard to keep these documents up to date. The APGAR document has not been updated for over a decade, but you know, it is on our website. The CV format that is desired by the Department of Medicine, along with the CEP format that's desired by the Department of Medicine, are also on our faculty development website that are easy to access. So before we go into our small groups, you know, I just want to remind everyone, if there's feedback you have, thoughts you have about this particular section, please let us know. I see there's a few comments. I'm going to see if I can look on really quick, and then, all right, so I'm going to, okay, the last two comments really talk about if you create curriculum and part of that's a new assessment tool, should you put it in both places or just in one? I think in general on the CEP, you don't want to repeat something that's been placed somewhere else. So I'm not so sure that I'm worried about someone grading you and saying that you did it wrong and this should be in a different section, although we could obviously give you that advice. But I really want to highlight what it is that you're doing. So if you created a new assessment tool and you feel like that fits best as a clinical activity, then put in your clinical activity. If you feel like that fits best in your educational activities, then you should highlight it there. And I think that is in some ways up to you to decide. And obviously there is overlap because what we're educating people on oftentimes then can be extrapolated and utilized in the clinical environment, but what's your intent and how do you want to highlight it in terms of what you've done? And then Patricia, you were asking about budget amounts for grants. Do you still put the full sum? Yeah, I mean, I think you can definitely put the full sum of the grant, what your portion of that was, along with the full sum. But I think it's also just what your role is, right? So sometimes the role when you're collaborating or part of a grant is just listed as collaborator. But I think it's really important to say, well, here's my role and here's the number of hours that I'm putting into it. as we know, sometimes what we get paid for as our FTE from the grant is not always in line with the amount of work we're doing. And sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's less than fair, but I think it's worth you highlighting, like, this is the amount of time I'm putting in, this is what was involved, this was the coordination I had to do. Yeah, I would lay it all out there. Okay. So again, I'm available after. You guys can email me. You can, whatever's easiest. You can reach out to Jen. But I want to be conscious of our faculty facilitators' time, and I want to thank them for volunteering. So, and I will hop in each of the different groups as we're doing this. But Jean and Ramsey and Abby have agreed to facilitate, and Jen has already pre-decided who's going to go into different breakout groups for you guys to kind of talk in smaller, more intimate groups about your own personal experience to date, your own personal productivity, and then questions that remain about how to put that onto your CEP document, whether that's something that's already formed or to be done shortly after this discussion. And then I will hop on each of the breakout rooms to facilitate.